Picture this. The Galactic Council's emergency meeting is in full swing, and everyone's absolutely terrified. We're talking about a massive chamber that's usually buzzing with political debates and trade negotiations. But today it feels more like a horror movie screening. The lights are dimmed, and hundreds of different alien species are packed into their various seats, pods, and floating platforms. Some are breathing through masks, others are glowing with bioluminescent stress patterns, and a few are actually vibrating with fear. Admiral Vextera of the Kree Empire is standing at the center podium, and let me tell you, this guy is not having a good day. His 4 eyes are blinking so fast, it looks like he's got some kind of nervous tic, and his usually perfect military posture is starting to crack under pressure. Behind him, a massive holographic display is showing combat footage that's making every single alien in the room want to crawl under their seats and pretend they never heard of humans. On screen, human soldiers are doing something that defies all logic in the galaxy. They're charging straight through plasma fire that would turn most species into glowing dust. And here's the really crazy part. They're actually grinning while they do it, not grimacing in pain, not screaming in terror, but honest to goodness, smiling like they're having the time of their lives. One human soldier takes a plasma blast to the shoulder that should have dropped him, and instead of falling down, he just keeps running forward while laughing. They call it adrenaline, Vextera explains, and his voice is literally shaking as he speaks. You can see the sweat equivalent dripping from his scaled forehead. It's some kind of biological chemical that floods their system when they're in danger. Instead of making them run away like any sane creature would, it makes them stronger, faster, and apparently completely insane. He pauses to steady himself, clearly struggling to comprehend what he's saying. The footage switches to another scene, and this one's even worse from the alien's perspective. A group of human soldiers are pinned down by enemy fire, completely outnumbered, and what do? They start making jokes. Actual jokes, while explosions are going off around them. One human is heard saying something about how the enemy's aim is worse than his grandmother's cooking, and his buddies start laughing so hard they can barely hold their weapons. A delegate from the crystalline Zephyrian system stands up, her entire body flickering with what humans would recognize as panic colors. Admiral, surely this footage has been altered. No species can maintain such behavior patterns under life-threatening stress. It goes against every survival instinct we know. Vextera shakes his head slowly. I wish that were true, Delegate Shimmer of Moons. But our intelligence teams have verified everything. These humans evolved from something called persistence hunters. He brings up a new display showing ancient Earth animals. Their ancestors would literally chase their prey across entire continents, not with bursts of speed like sensible predators, but with steady, relentless pursuit. They would run for days, weeks even, never stopping, never giving up until their target simply collapsed from exhaustion and died. The chamber fills with horrified gasps and the alien equivalent of nervous muttering. A tentacle being from the Aquatic Union waves several appendages in distress. You mean they hunted by wearing their prey down mentally? That's psychological warfare at its most primitive level. It gets worse, Vextera continues, pulling up more recent footage. Modern humans still retain these traits. We have documented cases of human rescue teams walking for 30 straight hours without sleep to save people they've never met. Human athletes who continue competing with broken bones. Human parents who will fight creatures 10 times their size to protect their offspring. And here's the really terrifying part. They seem to enjoy the challenge. The footage now shows a human soldier who's been separated from his unit, surrounded by hostile aliens, and instead of surrendering or panicking, he's trash-talking his enemies while reloading his weapon. Come on, is that all you got? He yells at creatures that could tear him apart with their bare claws. My little sister hits harder than that, and she's only 12 years old. A multi-armed delegate from the Spiral Galaxy clutters his mandibles in what passes for nervous laughter among his species. They mock death itself. What kind of evolution produces a species that treats mortal danger as entertainment? Admiral Vextera closes his presentation with one final, chilling statement. Fellow council members, we are not dealing with a typical aggressive species. We are dealing with creatures who have turned survival itself into a sport. They don't just fight to win. They fight because they genuinely seem to love fighting. The galaxy has never encountered anything like them. The chamber falls into stunned silence as the reality sinks in. Humanity hadn't just entered the galactic stage. They had arrived as the ultimate wild card. So Captain Rebecca Walsh gets this diplomatic assignment, and honestly, she's pretty excited about it at first. Rebecca's been in the Earth fleet for about 15 years, worked her way up from a basic communications officer to commanding her own ship. She's handled plenty of first contact situations before, mostly with friendly trade partners and curious explorers. When Admiral Peterson calls her into his office at Luna Base, she's expecting maybe another routine cultural exchange mission or some boring trade negotiations. But the moment Peterson starts talking, Rebecca knows something's off. "Walsh, I need you to understand this assignment is unusual," he says, shuffling through a stack of official-looking documents. "The Galactic Council has specifically requested you for this diplomatic mission, but their communications are, well, strange." He slides a data pad across his desk, and Rebecca starts reading. The messages are filled with all this weird formal language about humanity's fearsome reputation, and multiple requests for minimal security escorts and non-threatening approach vectors. Rebecca looks up from the pad, confused. "Sir, they're talking about us like we're some kind of military threat. Are we missing something here? Have there been incidents I don't know about?" Peterson just shrugs and admits he's as puzzled as she is. The Council seems genuinely terrified of humans, but Earth's diplomatic records show nothing but peaceful interactions for the past 50 years. The journey to the neutral station takes about a week through hyperspace, and Rebecca spends most of it reviewing the mission files with her crew. Her first officer, Lieutenant Commander Jake Murphy, keeps scratching his head as they go through the alien communications. "Captain, look at this phrase here. They keep calling us legendary warriors and unstoppable in combat. When's the last time we even had a real military engagement with anyone?" Chief Engineer Lisa Thompson chimes in from across the briefing table. "Maybe they've got us confused with some other species? I mean, half the galaxy looks the same to me sometimes." The crew laughs, but there's an underlying nervousness. Nobody likes walking into a situation they don't understand, especially when the other side seems genuinely afraid of you. When the UES Harmony finally drops out of hyperspace near the neutral station, Rebecca's first thought is that they've arrived at the wrong coordinates. The station is massive, easily capable of housing thousands of beings, but it looks practically abandoned. There are maybe a dozen ships docked, and most of those appear to be minimal security vessels. Through the view screen, she can see that most of the station's docking bays are empty, and the few aliens moving around outside are keeping to the shadows. "This doesn't look like any diplomatic summit I've ever attended," Murphy mutters, running scans of the station. "Captain, I'm reading life signs for maybe 300 beings total. This place could hold 10,000 easily." Rebecca orders a standard docking procedure, but even that goes weird. Instead of the usual cheerful greeting from station control, they get a very formal, very nervous-sounding alien voice that keeps asking about their weapon status and aggressive intent levels. When Rebecca assures them they're coming in peace for diplomatic talks, there's a long pause before the voice says, "Of course, honor human warriors. We understand that even your peaceful missions require preparation." The docking bay they're assigned to is practically empty except for what looks like a full security detail waiting for them. But here's the strange part. The aliens aren't positioned like they're ready to arrest anyone. They're positioned like they're ready to run. Rebecca can see them through the airlock cameras, and every single one of them is wearing what appears to be full ceremonial armor. Not practical armor, but the kind of fancy stuff diplomats wear to important meetings, except this armor looks like it could actually stop a missile. When Rebecca and her small diplomatic team finally step off the ship, the aliens literally take a step back. Not just one step, several steps, like they're trying to maintain what they consider a safe distance. The lead diplomat, some kind of insectoid being with multiple arms, approaches them with what can only be described as extreme caution. Through the universal translator, his voice comes out in hushed, reverent tones. "Welcome, fair human warriors, to our humble station. We are honored that you have chosen to meet with us despite your legendary ferocity." Rebecca blinks, wondering if the translator is malfunctioning. The alien continues. We prepared our finest ceremonial chambers for beings of your unstoppable nature. Rebecca looks around at her crew, and she can see the same confusion in their faces that she's feeling. Jake Murphy leans over and whispers, "Captain, what exactly have we been doing out there that's got everyone so spooked?" Chief Medical Officer Dr. Patricia Green adds quietly, "Maybe we should ask them what they think we've been doing." The alien diplomat is still talking, mentioning something about humanity's reputation for relentless pursuit and the terror you strike in the hearts of your enemies. Rebecca realizes that whatever these aliens think they know about humans, it's definitely not the whole story. The negotiations start in what can only be described as the most awkward diplomatic meeting in human history. Picture a conference room that looks like it was designed by someone who'd never actually seen beings interact before. The table is enormous, easily 50 feet long, with a human delegation sitting on one side and about 30 different alien species spread out on the other side like they're trying to maintain a safe blast radius. Captain Rebecca Walsh opens with standard diplomatic pleasantries, but the moment she raises her voice slightly to address the room, half the aliens actually duck behind their chairs. When Lieutenant Commander Jake Murphy chuckles at something his tablet displays, 3 different species immediately activate what look like personal shield generators. The tentacle delegate from the Aquatic Union actually starts backing toward the exit when Chief Medical Officer Patricia Green stretches and her chair creaks. Rebecca tries to lighten the mood by suggesting they all introduce themselves informally, but that somehow makes things worse. When she stands up to gesture toward her crew, the insectoid diplomat lets out what sounds like a terrified clicking noise, and several other aliens begin speaking rapidly into what appear to be emergency communicators. The universal translators are picking up phrases like aggressive posturing and threat display initiated. The whole situation is getting more ridiculous by the minute. Chief Engineer Lisa Thompson tries to pour herself a glass of water, and you'd think she'd pulled out a weapon based on how the aliens react. The Zephyrian ambassador, this beautiful crystal-looking being called Resonance of Stars, actually dims their natural light when Lisa moves too quickly, reaching for the pitcher. About 2 hours into this disaster of a meeting, Rebecca is starting to wonder if they should just call the whole thing off and head home. The aliens are treating every normal human behavior like it's some kind of military tactic. When Jake accidentally drops his stylus and it clatters on the table, the reaction from the alien delegation looks like they're expecting an explosion. That's when something beautiful and completely unexpected happens. Engineer David Thompson, who's been quietly monitoring communications from his position at the side of the room, gets a priority message on his personal device. It's from his wife back on Earth, and when he opens a video file, his face immediately transforms into the biggest smile you've ever seen. On the tiny screen, there's a toddler taking wobbly steps across a living room, while a woman's voice encourages her from behind the camera. "Come on, sweetheart, you can do it. Walk to Daddy's picture." The little girl, maybe 18 months old, stumbles forward with her arms stretched out toward a framed photo of David in his uniform. David starts crying immediately, and we're not talking about a few tasteful tears here. This is full-on sobbing, the kind that comes from deep in your chest when you're overwhelmed with pure happiness. He's trying to keep quiet since they're in the middle of negotiations, but he can't help himself. "She's walking," he whispers to no one in particular, voice cracking with emotion. "My baby girl is walking." The entire room goes dead silent. All the alien delegates are staring at this human warrior, who's supposedly one of the galaxy's most dangerous creatures, and he's crying over a video of a small child learning to walk. The contrast is so stark that nobody seems to know how to process it. Resonance of Stars is the first to break the silence. Their crystalline body starts pulsing with curious colors as they slowly, very carefully, creep closer to David's position. Through the universal translator, their voice comes out filled with genuine confusion. "Excuse the interruption, honor human warrior, but our sensors indicate you are leaking fluid from your optical organs. Are you experiencing a malfunction? Do you require medical assistance?" Rebecca realizes she needs to step in and explain. "Those are tears," she says gently, smiling at David, who's still wiping his eyes and grinning at his tablet. Humans produce them when we experience strong emotions. In this case, David is crying because he's happy. His daughter just took her first independent steps. You could literally hear a pin drop in that massive conference room. Every alien is staring at them like Rebecca just explained that humans can fly by flapping their arms. Resonance of Star's entire body starts shimmering with what Rebecca is beginning to recognize as intense interest. You leak salt water when experiencing positive emotions? They ask, moving even closer with obvious fascination. This is unprecedented in our xenobiological databases. Then they pause, and their crystalline form shifts to a different color pattern that seems to indicate they're processing additional information. Our preliminary intelligence reports indicate that this offspring is not genetically related to you. Engineer Thompson. Is this correct? David looks up from his tablet, still emotional but clearly confused by the question. That's right, sir. My wife and I adopted Melissa when she was 6 months old. Her birth parents couldn't care for her, so we became her family. The reaction from the alien delegation is immediate and dramatic. Several species start speaking at once in their native languages, their translators struggling to keep up with the rapid-fire conversations. The phrases that do come through are things like impossible bonding behavior and attachment to unrelated genetic material and emotional investment in non-offspring. Resonance of Star stands there processing this information, their bodies cycling through colors that Rebecca suspects represent deep confusion mixed with growing fascination. The entire dynamic of the room has shifted in a matter of minutes, all because one human father got emotional about his adopted daughter's milestone. Rebecca realizes that whatever the aliens thought they knew about humans, they're about to learn something completely different. And that's when everything changed completely. You know how sometimes one small moment can flip an entire situation upside down? That's exactly what happened in that conference room. The second David explained that his daughter was adopted, it was like someone had just announced that humans could breathe underwater or see through walls. The alien delegates went from being terrified of humanity's supposed warrior nature to being absolutely fascinated by something they'd never encountered before in the entire galaxy. Dr. Amy Roberts, who had been quietly taking notes as a mission xenobiologist, suddenly found herself thrust into the spotlight. She's this brilliant scientist who spent most of her career studying how different species interact, but she's never had to explain basic human emotions to beings who literally cannot comprehend them. Within minutes, she's got dozens of alien species crowding around her, and they're all talking at once through their translators. The questions start simple, but get more complex fast. How can you form emotional attachments to genetically unrelated offspring? Ask a multi-armed delegate whose species apparently only cares for their direct biological descendants. What evolutionary advantage does this behavior provide? Demand a hive mind representative who seems genuinely disturbed by the concept of individual emotional choice. Dr. Roberts takes a deep breath and realizes she's about to give the most important lecture of her career to an audience she never could have imagined. Well, adoption is just the beginning, she starts, pulling up her research files on her tablet. Humans form emotional bonds based on shared experiences, mutual care, and choice rather than just genetics. She starts showing them footage from her anthropological studies, and you can literally see the aliens' worldviews cracking with each new example. First, she shows them videos of human families with adopted children from different ethnic backgrounds, all playing together and clearly loving each other deeply. The crystalline Zephyrian delegate, Resonance of Stars, actually starts flickering so rapidly with confusion that Rebecca worries they might short-circuit. Then Dr. Roberts moves on to cross-species friendships, and that's when things get really interesting. She shows footage of humans who have formed deep emotional bonds with their pets, not just dogs and cats, but exotic animals from across the galaxy. There's a video of a human woman who spent her life savings to build a sanctuary for injured alien creatures she'd never even seen before, just because she heard they needed help. The tentacled delegate from the Aquatic Union starts making distressed, bubbling noises when Dr. Roberts explains how humans will risk their lives to save complete strangers. You mean they will endanger themselves for beings with no genetic relationship, no pack affiliation, no mutual benefit agreements? The translator struggles with the concept, adding confused static to every sentence. But the real mind-blower comes when Dr. Roberts starts talking about humans who adopt alien war orphans. She pulls up news footage from the recent conflicts in the Outer Rim systems, showing human families who've taken in young aliens whose parents were killed in various wars and territorial disputes. These aren't just temporary care arrangements or political gestures. These are full family adoptions where humans are raising alien children as their own. Admiral Vextera, who's been sitting at the far end of the alien delegation, suddenly stands up. This four-eyed military leader who terrified his own council just days ago looks absolutely stunned. Dr. Roberts, he says to his translator, his voice barely above a whisper, "Are you telling us that humans will emotionally bond with any species, regardless of compatibility, mutual benefit, or even basic communication ability?" Dr. Roberts nods and pulls up even more examples. There are humans who form deep friendships with AI constructs, treating artificial intelligences like family members. There are videos of human researchers who spend decades studying alien cultures not for any strategic advantage, but simply because they find them interesting and want to understand them better. She shows footage of human rescue workers who've died trying to save alien civilians during natural disasters on planets they'd never even visited before. The room is completely silent except for the quiet humming of various alien life support systems and the occasional confused chirp from someone's translator trying to process concepts that don't exist in their language. Finally, Admiral Vextera sinks back into his chair, his military posture completely gone. "We thought your pack bonding was limited to immediate relatives," he whispers, all four eyes blinking in different patterns that Dr. Roberts recognizes as deep confusion mixed with something that might be awe. "We had no idea you could emotionally imprint on literally anything that moves, or even things that don't move." The insectoid diplomat clicks his mandibles nervously. "This explains so much about your species' behavior patterns. We assumed your rescue missions and humanitarian aid were strategic operations designed to gain territorial advantage. We never considered that you might genuinely care about the welfare of beings you've never met." Dr. Roberts smiles sadly. "That's the thing about humans. We don't just bond with our own species or our own families. We bond with anything and anyone who needs care, protection, or just companionship. It's not always logical, and it definitely isn't always safe, but it's who we are." The alien delegates sit in stunned silence, try to process the idea that the galaxy's most feared species might actually be its most caring one. 3 weeks later, the summit finally wraps up, and honestly, it's been the most incredible transformation Captain Rebecca Walsh has ever witnessed in her diplomatic career. What started as the most awkward first contact meeting in galactic history has turned into something that's going to reshape how every species in the known universe thinks about humans. The conference station that was practically deserted when they arrived is now buzzing with activity as dozens of alien delegations work around the clock to completely rewrite their understanding of humanity. The Galactic Council has spent the last week in emergency sessions, completely overhauling their entire xenopsychology department. Dr. Amy Roberts has been working 18-hour days with their top researchers, helping them understand concepts that most alien species literally don't have words for. The Kree Empire's Military Intelligence Division has been frantically rewriting every threat assessment they've ever made about humans, while the Zephyrian Diplomatic Corps has been struggling to figure out how to approach a species that might try to adopt them as family members during trade negotiations. The changes have been dramatic and sometimes hilarious. The tentacle beings from the Aquatic Union spent 3 days just trying to understand why engineer David Thompson kept showing everyone new pictures of his adopted daughter learning to walk. They kept asking if the child had some kind of strategic military value that they were missing, when David explained that he just thought she was cute and wanted to share his happiness. Their translators actually started smoking from overuse. The insectoid delegates have been perhaps the most confused by human behavior. Their entire species operates on strict hierarchical genetic lines, and the idea that humans can form family bonds with anyone, regardless of species or biological relationship, has basically broken their entire social science framework. They've been sending constant updates back to their homeworld, trying to explain that humans might not be the ruthless conquerors they expected, but something far more unpredictable, a species that makes decisions based on emotions rather than logical benefit analysis. Admiral Vextera has become something of a celebrity among the military delegates. After spending years building his reputation on understanding human combat psychology, he's had to admit publicly that he got it completely wrong. During one of the final sessions, he stood up in front of representatives from 47 different species and said, "I've been studying warfare for 3 centuries, and I've never encountered anything more dangerous than an enemy who fights not because they hate you, but because they love someone else." The most touching moments have come from watching the alien delegates slowly start to understand human friendships. Chief Engineer Lisa Thompson has somehow managed to teach a group of crystalline beings how to play poker. Not for any strategic reason, but just because she thought it would be fun. Lieutenant Commander Jake Murphy has been helping the Aquatic Union delegates set up a better water filtration system in their quarters, even though it provides no benefit to humans whatsoever. As Captain Walsh prepares to head home, she's amazed by how different the station feels now. The same aliens who were terrified to get within 50 feet of humans 3 weeks ago are now asking for selfies and exchanging contact information. Some of the younger delegates have started what can only be described as pen-pal relationships with her crew members. That's when Resonance of Stars approaches her at the docking bay. Rebecca has learned to recognize Zephyrin emotions through their color patterns and crystal formations, and right now, Resonance of Stars is displaying what she now knows is nervous laughter mixed with genuine affection. The crystalline being has become almost like a friend over the past few weeks, constantly asking questions about human culture and sharing stories about their own species. Captain Walsh, Resonance of Stars, says through their translator, their bodies shimmering with colors that indicate both humor and regret. "We have been thinking about the situation extensively, and we believe we owe your species a significant apology." Rebecca smiles, adjusting her uniform as they prepare for departure. "No apology necessary. I think we all learned something important here." But that is precisely the issue. Resonance of Stars continues. Their crystalline form pulsing with what Rebecca has learned indicates deep thought. "We spent all this time being terrified of your capacity for violence that we completely missed your capacity for love. A species that emotionally adopts anything it encounters, forms what our psychologists call irrational attachments to beings that cannot reciprocate, will literally sacrifice themselves for complete strangers." Captain Walsh, "We were afraid of the wrong thing entirely." Rebecca looks back at her crew, and her heart swells with pride. Lisa Thompson is helping some alien engineers load supplies they don't even need, just because she noticed they seem stressed about the journey home. Jake Murphy is already planning to send weekly updates to the Aquatic Union about Earth's ocean research programs. Dr. Roberts is exchanging research data with alien scientists not because it benefits humanity, but because she finds their perspectives fascinating. Most touching of all, David Thompson is showing a group of young alien delegates pictures of his daughter, and they're all making the universal sounds of creatures who think small offspring are adorable regardless of species. You know what the funny thing is? Rebecca tells Resonance of Stars as they watch a crew loading care packages they prepared for their new alien friends. "We're probably going to keep doing exactly the same things we've always done. We're still going to care too much, bond with anyone who will let us, and probably end up adopting half the species we meet along the way." Resonance of Stars' body flickers with what Rebecca now recognizes as delighted laughter. That is exactly what terrifies us most. As the UES Harmony undocks and prepares for the journey home, Rebecca watches through the view screen as the station lights up with outgoing communications. Behind them, dozens of species are frantically contacting their homeworlds, updating first contact protocols, and all asking the same question. "How you prepared me a species whose most dangerous weapon is that they literally cannot stop caring about things?" Rebecca settles into her captain's chair, smiling as Earth comes into view on the navigation display. She has a feeling that humanity's reputation in the galaxy is about to change dramatically, and for the first time in their history, it might actually be accurate